Hey guys. So I listen to a lot of other podcasts, and one of my absolute favorites is one by Susan Choi called Stress Proof. Can't recommend it enough. Short 20-minute episodes. And she has a way of breaking things down that just really appeals to me. Not just really appeals to me, that clicks for me in a way that she can take a concept I've been thinking about for days, months, years sometimes, and really just break it down succinctly in a way I can really embrace and understand. So I basically wanted to pass that knowledge along to you guys on the topic of how to set boundaries, because I just had some major breakthroughs listening to her words on how to set boundaries. And oh man, I just want to share them with you guys. All right, so we hear about boundaries all the time, and boundaries are things that essentially protect us or protect our needs when we're interacting with others. Now, you might hear the term boundaries and immediately think of your personal relationships, or you might hear the word boundaries and think about, maybe that client who likes to call you at midnight repeatedly, or that person who, when that colleague that, you send an email to or something and they don't get a response, you don't get a response back. But then when they email you, if you don't respond within an hour, oh boy, you're going to hear about it. So these are all just examples of situations in which boundaries can be helpful. And I think we all understand why and how boundaries can be helpful. But what I struggle with much, much more is how to systematically set boundaries. So not just the power of saying no and expressing my needs and etc. But is there a format that I can use that can take some of the pressure off of figuring out how to do it? Because I can rely on that structure to support me. As you guys know, I'm a process gal. I love processes and systems and frameworks because they simplify things for my very overactive brain, shall we say. All right, so Susan Choi breaks down boundaries as having two major components in terms of setting them. The first one is, I think, the one that most of us are already familiar with, although I'll define it a little bit more clearly, which is, what am I okay with versus what am I not okay with in terms of behavior? And I think it's important to note here that this has to be behavior that basically affects you in some way. And what I mean by that is that effective boundaries are not actually a means of controlling other people. They're a means of protecting yourself and your needs. And the second part that most people forget, so part one is understanding what sort of behavior you're okay with, not okay with. Part two is, what will I do if those needs aren't met, if that behavior, that I have expressed aversion to continues to happen. And I think this is really important because part two is where you take your power back. I think setting boundaries is about power, and not in a power in the sense of you like establishing your power over other people, not at all. It's about embracing the empowerment of having control over your own context and your own life. A lot of the time, I think we feel at the mercy of the situations and people around us. And don't get me wrong, those stressors can be pretty freaking stressful. And often we can't control them. And in the end, I think that's something really important to recognize here, is that we can't control anybody. We cannot. We can perhaps sometimes have the illusion of control, but we cannot control anyone else's thoughts, behaviors, actions, etc., other than ourselves. And hell, I don't know about you, but it's hard enough to manage my own shit. I'm kind of okay with the fact that I can't literally manage anyone else's. But where does this leave us, right? This leaves us in a position of vulnerability when we attempt to set boundaries, when we say, okay, this behavior isn't okay. And I think there's, if you're anything like me, you might put a lot of passive ways of managing this, right? So for example, and I can see now how this translates into the boundary framework that I'm giving you guys now. I will never answer an email after 5 p.m. or on a weekend or et cetera. Heck, most of the time not after 3 p.m. because that's actually, I finish my work at 3:30 p.m., not at 5. And I don't really have to, I guess, set boundaries really strongly around this because I can manage the behavior by just never doing that, right? It's kind of like training your clients. Like if people ask, I will say, well, yeah, I just don't answer emails, et cetera. No. But for the most part, I just don't do it. So I'm not training people to expect it. This is a little bit different from setting a boundary. This is managing a stressor, and managing stressors is really important by kind of having these things in place. But let me give you a real world example of a difference between essentially like managing a stressor and setting a really effective boundary. So my team, my strategists, one of the things that really sets us apart is that we're really freaking good with timelines. In fact, we guarantee that we will never miss a deadline we set or your money back. And that isn't quite the same as, clients having that same urgency around deadlines. And most of the time, we do a really good job of basically managing the situation, the expectations, and the stressors so that it's never a problem. Well, never being the key word, because that's actually not quite true. And what I mean by that is that, for example, at the very first meeting, we set up all of the subsequent meetings. We let them know, that this meeting has its place. If you reschedule it, that means we might have to push things out, et cetera. We also have lots of kind of little things in place around, the fact that we do like live workshop sessions, things people say around, okay, at this point, we have everything we need. Here it is on this list. We're going to move forward with writing. No more stuff is going to be accepted. So these are all like little boundaries in the sense that this is all so baked into our process that most of the time we don't really have to defend these boundaries because we are just setting expectations really well and kind of almost playing puppet master and controlling the situation. But sometimes, oh gosh, sometimes we have people who really disrespect our timelines. And they might be very demanding. On top of that, sometimes these are people who actually have a lot of urgency and want their project to get done quickly. I don't know what's going on in their heads, but we'll say, okay, we have this meeting to get this stuff done. And then maybe they won't show up for the meeting. And then maybe they won't show up for the next meeting. And at this point, maybe we're kind of stuck. We're in limbo. We don't know what to do. So you can do a lot of different things to try and manage the situation. You can call them and try and get on a call so that you can hash things out right away. You can send a sternly worded email, etc. But in order to set an effective boundary, what we do is we have both of these parts here. We're very clear, first of all, about what's okay and what's not okay. In the sense that we'll say, hey, we haven't heard from you. We're still waiting on this document, and this document. If we don't hear from you within this time frame, this is what is going to happen. And that last part is part 2. This is what we will do if our needs are not met. It's not a negotiation. It's also not, we're not like threatening them with like punishment or consequences. That's really, there might be consequences, yes, but that's really not what this is about. Sometimes what that boundary is, hey, we need this from you, or we are going to move forward without it. That is actually the boundary I've instructed my team to set with me, which is I really like to look over things, especially like marketing and branding stuff that's going out. But my team will say, hey, this is specifically what we need from you. And that's really important because if they just say, hey, here's a document, we're sending it out on this date or whatever, I'm like, okay, cool, sweet. I don't actually know what they need from me. I don't know what's okay or not okay. They need to express, okay, we need you to revise, give us any feedback, and check the data or something like that before this date, or we are going to move forward and send it to the designer, or we are going to launch it, or etc. And this is a really neutral and compassionate way of approaching it because it's clear, it's very clear, and it is keeping the locus of control within the person who is setting the boundary. So on a, more personal level, this could look like, I'm having a conflict with somebody. Hopefully you don't have, major conflict in your work life. Maybe you do. If so, no shame. But let's say, I'm having a fight with my partner or something like that. And things start to escalate to the point where I can feel, or I can kind of tell that we're both starting to, lean into maybe being a little bit tempted to be mean or to yell or something, instead of just navigating conflict kind of more calmly, if a little bit charged. At that point, my temptation, like what I want to do is I want to, like, I don't know, start yelling or walk away, or let me just be real. Like I tend to explode really quickly with my emotions. And it's really tempting to just react. But the difference between, again, reacting or trying to control the situation and setting a boundary is that instead I can be like, hey, I can notice that this is getting a little bit heated. I need us to kind of keep this at room talking volume, or I'm just going to need to walk away and take 20 minutes. And again, it's not like, what the hell, why are you yelling? And it's not me starting to yell, and it's not me just walking away for 20 minutes, which, oh my gosh, I'm so tempted to do a lot of the time. It's me setting a clear boundary, being clear. Okay, this is what I need. This is what I'm asking of you, basically. This is the behavior that I need right now. And this is what I'm going to do if it's not met. So powerful, because not only can I not control his behavior, but if I try, that's probably going to lead to more defensiveness. None of us likes to lose our sense of agency. None of us like to feel manipulated. And I think that's why this is so powerful, is because it takes practice, but being able to just break it down. Okay. And I like to start with, what do I need right now? And sometimes, and that need usually starts with me, right? In the sense that I might need space to process my emotions. I might need, focus for work. There's a lot of things that I might need. For my strategists, they might need to have the documents in order to move forward on the project. Otherwise, the slot that they've booked in to put their time on it is no longer going to be available, right? So then we move to, okay, what's not okay? Well, it's okay for you to be super busy and to be struggling, but it's not okay for you to ghost us and to just not respond at all and to just miss meetings willy-nilly. And so what's going to happen if this continues? Well, we're going to put your project on hold and there's going to be a restart fee. It's that simple, right? What that looks like can look a number of different ways, but it's clear, it's consistent. This is what we need. This is what's going to happen if that doesn't happen. And let's just be really clear and concise about all of that whenever possible. All right. So a note on setting boundaries. If this makes sense to you, but you're still like, well, but how do I access that place inside of myself to draw the line when I'm faced with the situation and I just want to kind of cave? And I think, Susan Choi says, and I agree, that it's easy to tolerate more than you would and kind of let people step all over your boundaries when you're acting out of a place of fear, right? I fear to alienate this client because I need the project or the money right now. Or, I fear to set a boundary with a coworker because I'm afraid that they're going to cause trouble or talk about me behind my back or something like that. Again, kind of depends on your work culture, or I'm afraid to let them down straight up. This is a big one, I think, on our team, is that we're all afraid to let each other down. So sometimes we have a hard time setting boundaries around our time. No, I don't have time to help, or no, I can't do that thing because I want to be supportive. I feel afraid of, maybe I could have helped you and I said no, and now you're suffering. But the truth is that setting boundaries is a gift. It's like knowing your needs and expressing your needs. It is a gift that you give to yourself, probably one of the most important and beautiful and valuable gifts that you can give to yourself. And it's also a gift that you give to other people, because the more you get clear and consistent around your boundaries, the more that you start to live a lighter, less resentful life. That's been my experience. And don't get me wrong, setting boundaries has been a huge challenge for me. And just knowing these two elements essentially to put in it has been really helpful, because sometimes I'm like, I don't even know how to say it, right? But being in power of your own life, being in charge of your own needs, taking responsibility for your own essentially like fulfillment, comfort, etc., essentially for your needs, is so powerful, because even though it can be uncomfortable and it can be hard and it's a habit that needs to be practiced, and it's going to continue being uncomfortable and hard, just like running. If you've been, sitting at your desk for 10 hours a day without any exercise for weeks or months or years, in my case, getting up and out there is going to be difficult. But you start small and start slow and just make sure that you're being clear and consistent, and you move up. And you feel amazing, like I went from maybe like 4,000 steps a day on my Fitbit and like 0 active minutes ever, to going for 45, 50-minute walks 5 or 6 days a week, sometimes doing yoga and cycling and stuff on top of that. And I feel so good. Like I have so much energy and it feels so great. It's such a good analogy. Like if you've ever had that feeling from exercise or from meditation or from yoga or from even just stillness over your cup of coffee, where you're like, right, this is my time. This is something I'm doing for me that feels good. That's what setting boundaries feels like once you get better at it, once you get practice at it. Because you don't have to worry about other people reading your mind anymore. You don't have to try and read other people's minds anymore either, because you can ask for boundaries and help other people navigate through boundaries as well. It's focus on your own stuff first. But this really is a superpower that you can develop. It's about you learning to take care of you. And this is one of those things that for me, if you've listened to me before, you know that I don't really believe in work-life balance in the sense of the thing, because our work and our lives are so intertwined. I believe that, anyway, I'll go on to that rant. But basically, taking care of your mental health, self-work is working on the business. If you are a leader or a founder in a business, then that business, even if you have all the team and processes and systems and stuff, unless you are totally divorced from it, is an extension of you to some degree. And being able to set boundaries is something that doesn't just benefit your stress levels, your level of agency, your level of resentment. It's something that directly benefits the quality of the work that you do, because you're able to have your needs met and therefore be able to navigate working better and better. Like I struggle to focus, especially with my team. I really want to be available and stuff. Being able to set boundaries around how and when they interact with me, how and when they ask me for feedback. It's allowed me the freedom to focus on the next big thing for the company, the thing that I know is going to allow us to serve our audience in a way that's bigger and better than ever before, and serve my team in a way that helps them do their best work. And that's freaking valuable. All right. So once again, just kind of TLDR here, how to set boundaries 101. Number 1, figure out what sort of behavior is okay or not okay. Number 2, figure out what you will do if that need isn't met. Bonus points, start by thinking about what need of yours needs to be met, or of the company's, or etc. in this situation. And bonus number 2 is, whenever you can, get very, very specific and clear and consistent. Put these boundaries in writing if they're business boundaries. And don't be afraid to just get, really, really specific about what you're expecting from people and what's going to happen if not, in a neutral and compassionate way. Not about controlling people. You can't control people, even if you want to. This is about you taking care of you. And if you're struggling because you're coming from a place of fear or perhaps anger, that's okay. But you're going to need to move past it. I would suggest, I guess this is less TLDR, more a little bit of a new thing. I would suggest, asking yourself, if I didn't feel this fear or anger, would this still be okay? How would I feel about this? What would I want this to look like? Anyway, I would love to hear from you guys about your stories of setting boundaries, what it's meant to you, what sort of change has happened in your life because of it. Would absolutely love to hear from you. So feel free to email me, say at anansicontent.com. Feel free to go on over to our website, anansicontent.com, and fill in the contact form. Let us know what you're thinking about. And as always, I hope you have an absolutely excellent rest of your day.